This is a conversation, a discussion about parity, equality. We have been there on the forefront in Savannah, Chatham County, Georgia, with regards to that. Our leadership. When you talk about civil rights in the state of Georgia, before Atlanta, it was Savannah. Savannah was the center for civil rights in the state of Georgia in the early 1900s up until the mid 1900s, until Dr. Ralph Mark Gilbert then retires. And his wife, Alora Gilbert, the great Alora Gilbert, that then she also goes with her husband, and they no longer are the leaders of the NAACP here in the state of Georgia. Also, Saul C. Johnson is playing a role with regard to civil rights in the state of Georgia. Saul C. Johnson, editor of the Savannah Tribune. Saul C. Johnson and other African people are gathering in Atlanta, Georgia for a meeting there in early 1900s, and they're now saying there is a new African in the state of Georgia, a new African, that they will not endure some of the same prejudices and discrimination that has gone on. That no, they're saying it's a new day. We got to make changes, and these are people who are college presidents, ministers, business people, yes, and lay people, men and women who are all there now gathered in Atlanta, and they're saying basically before Atlanta locked, the new Negro. They're saying it's a new Negro here, and they're seeking parity. Um, when it came to economics, guess what? Savannah is right there in the mix. In fact, when it came to banking, to black banking, Savannah was the center for black banking in the state of Georgia because we had the banks right here. Walter Scott, a graduate of Tuskegee, Lucius Williams, right here, the Wage Earner Bank, the richest black bank in the entire United States, right on Westboro Street. Wait a minute, Jamal. Wage Earner Bank? Dr. Ralph Mark Gilbert, the Civil Rights Museum in Savannah, is now housed in the former Wage Earner Bank. Wait a minute, Jamal. Walter Scott? Walter Scott will later buy the building and turn it into the Guarantee Insurance Building. See those wonderful connections right there. So, but again, economics was a part of our fight in the state of Georgia. Civil rights was a part of our fight because it all goes hand in hand. But back to another a component that's important to us regarding us to elevate. Education. Education leads to elevation. Education can help elevation. Yes. Savannah, Georgia at the turn of the century had a 51% black population. Yes, we had a majority black population in Savannah. And the numbers again go and say, as I share, that black population also translated over to a place called Chatham County. But guess what? In southern cities, then some of the numbers, so this is again from some of the sources, they're going to say that no southern city that had a population of 20,000 or more had any public high schools for black folks. This again at the turn of the century. No public high schools for black children at the turn of the century with populations, southern cities of 20,000 or better. Wow. We know that Beach High School becomes a high school, public high school. This is 1927 when Saul C. Johnson will then convey the property known as Beach Institute over to the Board of Education, now creating a public high school known as A.E. Beach High School. That's 1927. 1939, Beach is accredited by the state of Georgia. Of course, we know about Ware High School in Augusta, Georgia, but as I share, folks, they reduced Ware down to basically they got rid of Ware. Then you have Ballard Hudson High School in Macon, Georgia. So that's why I thank God for Savannah State University. Savannah State was able to educate African people, not just here in the city of Savannah or within the region, but across the entire state of Georgia and this country right here. Folks are able to come here and go to Savannah State. Savannah had another normal school too, because again, we had the normal school at Savannah State, and we had a normal school also on off of White Bluff. That was tied to Morris Brown University. But back to Savannah, Georgia, and educating African children. They will create what they call 3 elementary schools. They call them also common schools or grammar schools. One, of course, we know the first one is the Westboro Street School. That was on Westboro Street, now MLK Junior Boulevard. The other one was the Eastboro Street School. And the other one was the Maple School. Now, they had these, they call sessions. And now with regards to these sessions, they're kind of interesting. Students at the Westboro Street School had classrooms of 95 students. 95 students. Again, 95 students in a classroom. So teachers today complain about their classroom sizes today. Can you imagine having 95 African children in a classroom? 95 African children in a classroom. They said that some students didn't even have seats, didn't even have a desk. Yes, some students did not even have a desk. So they just sitting there in the aisles and everywhere inside the classroom. But then it's not just about them not having a desk. Guess what? They also didn't have textbooks. They said that only 50%, this is at the Westboro Street School, they said only 50% of the students there even had a textbook. Yes. So you're in the aisles, you're by the windowsills, and this is what they write up talk about. By the windowsills, in the aisles, but then you don't even have a textbook. 50% of the students do not have a textbook. At East Broad Street School, at the B session, which was the afternoon session, they said none of the students there had books. None of the African American children had books at the B session at the East Broad Street School. Now you go to the Maple Street School. They said the situation wasn't as acute as at West Broad and East Broad. They said, but guess what? They said the books that they had over at Maple Street School were unsanitary. So you have unsanitary books, or you have no books. And now, why is this glaring? Why am I bringing this up? Because guess what happened? The parents of the students who now attended these schools, again, these are public schools, had to pay a textbook rental fee. They had to pay a rental fee for the textbooks. So here it is, they don't have textbooks, or the books are unsanitary. This was African Savannah in the early 1900s. This is what your ancestors endured here in the city of Savannah, in Chatham County, in the early 1900s. So they're paying a fee, but their children not even getting the textbooks. In crowded classroom, they're also now, I'm just telling folks, they're now being also pushed to a point where they will not go on to high school, that they go just to the 8th grade. So they're being set up, again, to limit them. This is what your ancestors had to endure. So some of them wanted to go further in their education, but the county governments who control the school systems, or if it was the cities, did not even help them to go beyond a certain grade, the grammar school level. So yeah, paying fees, paying for textbooks, but then not having the textbooks, or they're unsanitary. But now this is the thing, the other side of this is that they talked about in these southern states, these southern cities, southern counties, that they said that the wealthy benefited from the numbers of these African Americans going to the schools, or being counted in the population for the counties. That they could use that with regard to getting the educational dollars to come down, that would then be funneled to the schools to educate their generation, their children, the wealthy elite in these communities. So they benefited from that. They benefited from these poor people who now had to struggle to now come up with these text rental fees. And so they benefited from their numbers. And they continue to make sure that their next generation was going to be successful. But they made sure that other folks were being minimized. It has not changed. We need to address this type of stuff. And that's what we tell folks. You gotta talk about these issues. Because guess what? If you don't talk about the issues, you will not see a change. 1919. You know, it's a change that will occur in 1919. You have the push with regards to women having the right to vote. As I shared with y'all, Savannah was the center for civil rights, human rights here in the state of Georgia. Black men in Savannah, Georgia, advocated for women to have the right to vote here. Women, African American women, were rallying around that principle, and guess what? Black men were right there with them on that. Because they understood that, again, black men understood that their wives, their mothers, their daughters, their sisters, their aunts, their cousins, their nieces, their parents should all have the right to vote. Their grandparents should all have the right to vote. Black men in Savannah advocated for the black issue. The black issue was about being enfranchised because they had been disenfranchised. So here go men who were disenfranchised, now advocating for other people to be enfranchised. We know in the 1870s in Jasper County, South Carolina, that William Whipper would basically go before the body in Columbia and tell them that women should have the right to vote, that everyone should have the right to vote in the 1870s during Reconstruction. That's why I tell folks, when black folks discuss the black issues, everyone will benefit from it. You see parity for everyone. It's just that others try to maintain a system of keeping people down, holding them down, limiting them, making sure that they're limited. No, that's why I tell folks, you must talk about these issues because it brings about parity for everyone. If you say you're really about equality, you believe in the goodness of America, you can't argue against everybody having a chance. If you argue against that, then that shows that you are hypocritical.